Hey guys, EJ again today, and I am bringing you guys a little bit of a, not really a guide, but more of tips and ideas and a little bit of a guide of how to improve your Soul Shuffle experience as a Shadow Priest. Some of these tips could probably apply to anybody, but specifically I'm trying to help us out, the Shadow Priests that are out there. Just to give a little reference, I only play a couple days a week now, but a little bit of a reference. As you can see, I don't have a lot of games played, but we're 2,500 on my human SP. We're number 5 at the moment. Technically number 4 because one person has 2 characters above me, so we're technically number 4. Number 13, 68 and 24. Really nice win ratio still, 73%. I think I have the highest win ratio right now of SPs. And then we're 2406. So all of my characters are over 2400. This SP specifically, my Night Elf, has like a 2600 plus MMR. So I might today or tomorrow, depending if I have time, queue him up and take number 1. I think if I get a 4-2 or a 5-1, I'll go straight to the number 1 spot on this guy. His MMR is really high. That's just probably due to his win rate. But my point being is, it's not just one SP I'm playing. I'm playing multiple SPs, all high rating, all low games played, right? So what I want to give you guys is how I'm doing it, what's working for me, and what I'm looking out for. So that being said, I'm going to go over targeting selections. I'm going to go over obviously my build and my gear and all that, some macros, and yeah, and just kind of just give you some tips. So that's what we're going to go on today. If you guys appreciate these kind of videos or this helps you out in any way, let me know. Leave a comment, a like down below. Come to the stream, EjrSP at Twitch, or Kick, or TikTok. I have all of them. I go live stream all of them at the same time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, around 11:30 to around 4 EST. Weekends are open. But anyways, that's why I want to give you guys a little breakdown. So let's go ahead and start off real quick. You guys probably, due to my other guides, seen my builds, but we're gonna go over a quick build real quick on this guy, and that is I'm still Void Weaver and I still play defensive. All right. Now, based on the matchup, I will drop certain talents. I almost always keep Power Word Life, and I know a lot of SPs don't run it. I know most SPs don't run it. I live by it. I will always run Power Word Life. I can't tell me how many times I've lived at 2%, and because of Power Word Life, I have lived and went around. And again, it's just, for me, Phantom Reach is niche. Some people just lock it in because they want it, but as an SP, you're 90% of the time on top of the target, right? Also, real quick, let me turn this sound down. I don't want to have to hear. We're going to turn the sound off real quick. I'm on top of the target 90% of the time. And if they're going me, they're on me. I don't need the extra range, right? Don't need the extra range 90% of the time. This only comes into effect on big maps where healer's pulling back or versus double caster. So this is what I generally run right here on my priest side of the tree. And if I do have to get Phantom, I actually drop Bulwark for it. Bulwark has a 90-second cooldown, comes in handy every now and then. But in deep dampening, it's not the best thing in the world. It could maybe pull off something if you're lucky, but if I do ever run Phantom Reach, I drop Bulwark for it. I always keep Power Life. Again, it's something I run. But anyways, this is my base tree on the left side here. I always go down to Spell Warding or Bless Recovery. Based on what I'm queuing into. If I'm queuing into a Ret or a Fury Warrior or a BM Hunter or things of that nature, I go Bless Recovery. If I go gets a BM and a demo, I go Bless Recovery. And then versus anything that has magic, so Demon Hunters, Death Knights, Casters, I go Spell Warding. That 3%. I always go Manipulation for the extra 2%. So I'm always taking minimum 5% damage from any kind of casters. And then Protective Light, right? Like I've gone on before my previous guide, I prefer going defensive. If I don't die, I win, which goes to show my win rates in Solo Shuffle, my ratings in Solo Shuffle, because it works for me. You don't have to always be hyper aggressive. You need to know when to be aggressive and then when to just live. So that's just, again, for me. All right. That being said, same tree over here. I still go Void Leech. I swap to Embrace the Shadows if I'm fighting a rock comp that has Affilock on it. So if it's like Shadow Play, I go Embrace the Shadows. mainly because Void Leech is just adding another dot to it for them because everyone's rotting, and it only works if somebody's higher HP than you. So if you're lower and then you're taking HP from your teammate, well then they're taking dot damage plus your leech. It ends up being a little bit of too much of healing for your own healer. So I go Embrace the Shadows, a flat 3% wall that goes with manipulation, that goes with spell warning, that goes with protective light. So for me, it's just a wall that also heals me for 100% of the shadow damage I take. So it's just nice. And yeah, so I pretty much run this into anything that has strong rot, and Void Leech isn't going to be that good for me. Obviously, if they're magic also. So, Unholy Death Knights, if they're playing with the Aphilock or Destrolock, I'll run this. If it's melee cleaves, just go Void Leech, right? This being said, on the right side tree, pretty much what I've been running, I swap between Insidious Ire and Tormented Spirits based on if I need pad or based on if I need burst. So sometimes I really just need to kill somebody really quickly and the game won't last long, where I get value out of Tormented Spirits, and I'll go Insidious Ire for the big burst of my Void Torrent, but also my Void Blast hit for over 1 million with this talent. So if I am free casting and I know I get the free cast and I need to just kill, I'll go Ire, pump a big Void Torrent into a big Mind Blast into a big Collapsing Void. Granted, I do drop one Devouring Plague for my Collapsing Void, which and my Entropic Rift, which is only 20% or 20%, yeah. But I get a 40% stronger Void Torrent and a 40% stronger Void Blast, which comes out to more upfront burst compared to the Explosion of Collapse, which already got nerfed anyways by 10%. So this just is for if I need a really bursty one shot, I'll go Ire. But 90% of the time, I am actually going Tormented Spirits for the pad, but also it procs your rings, right? The damage of a spawned apparition can proc your rings more often, which equates to more pad, just FYI. So that's why I'll run this most of the time if I know the games, most games with SP end up going long, so this is always fine. Some people take Death Speaker and Death and Madness and Tith's Evasion. Death Speaker does, for me, 0 damage, and the only benefit for it is for Devour Matter to go through some shields. But even then, your globals are best spent with doing something else over deathing. So for me, it's just not my prio, and I don't like Death Speaker, and I don't like putting the talent into Death Speaker. I'd rather just take the Auspicious Spirits for a little bit of extra insanity. My cat is going crazy. I don't know if you could hear the ball running around, but my cat's running around trying to attack this ball. With that being said, yeah, so I just take the extra pad here and extra insanity because of it generates 1 insanity, procs off Tormented Spirits. Just basic rundown here with pad. I think most SPs are running this build right now. Outside of me going Ire, I think this is the most common build. So you can't go wrong. Lots of us are running it. Now 2 PvP talents here. A big thing with PvP talents that I run is into anything that's MS on my team and melee on the other team, I run Void Volley. So I run this generally if I have a warrior on my team, if I have a demo lock on my team, if I have a windwalker, X, Y, or Z, right? If something has MS on my team and I can't get value out of Psyfiend, I go Void Volley. Now, if it's a double caster comp and the warrior or whatever can't connect to 2 and we're swapping a lot, I'll still run Psyfiend to force that MS and help my warrior out in that regard, because it's like a sharpened blade, right? And it can also make them target him. And I can't tell you how many times I've forced people because in their brain they're playing with weak auras, or they're playing with fucking Gladiator Losa, and it tells them there's a Psyfiend up. So even if they have to kill, they'll tab target the Psyfiend. People are just brain rot in that regard. Add-ons run their life, and that's what they do. It's so easy to make people get off of a kill target. And I've actually won games when the team had the kill just because I threw a Psyfiend out and I knew they would attack the Psyfiend, and then I could free cast. It's actually insane, but yeah, so that's when you want to run that. If there's a comp where I get 0 value out of phase shift, like a really heavy melee comp where I can't gain distance from them, and the 1 second phase shift isn't gonna do anything, then I actually run a Void Volley and I run Psyfiend. And so things like that would be a good situation. That would be like hunters with Death Knights. Like, you could fade a grip, sure, but they have a second grip generally, and they're going to be on you anyways. So sometimes I'll drop the phase shift for that. Not a lot of the time, but there are times I will do that. Windwalker Warrior, for instance, is another one where I'll just like, okay, there's no value out of the phase shift here, right? They're going to be on me. Chances of me fading with that 1 second on a leg sweep or a storm bolt is generally low. You have to perfectly time that. It lasts 1 second. I get better value out of just throwing the volley and the side fiend out for a distraction and a CC and just send the go every 1 minute. But yeah, so it just depends what you're running. Realistically, I do keep these two locked in, Catharsis and Phase Shift, and I just swap out Fiend and Void Volley. Based on, like I said, if I have MS, if it's melee heavy, and if I get no value. So if it's a melee heavy lobby and I have MS on my team, Void Volley all the way. I run this like 50% of my games. I run Void Volley because there's generally a lot of heavy melee, or I generally have MS. So that's being said on that one. Very easy, same breakdown. I will link the build down below. One thing I want to go over is the macro for exploding your rift. A lot of people have been talking about it, and I have been getting a decent amount of value out of it. Oh, wrong one. A decent amount of value out of it when it comes to securing a kill. But 90% of the time, I don't explode my rift. It's only if I'm gonna get the kill. So but it is good to have, right? And I'll link this down below. But let's say like you're doing a go and he's at 10% and you have all your DPs pumped in and you want to just explode it. You just cancel aura it and that's all you do. I'll link it in. I actually have it tied to my Void Torrent, so it's the same keybind. It's not an extra keybind, but just Void Torrent. And then when I Void Torrent again, when I want to explode it. So I would recommend doing that. But like I said, you only want to do that if you're gonna get the kill. Outside of that, let your rift keep pumping its ticks, okay? Because if you explode it early, you're not gonna get the kill. You're not gonna get more pressure out of it. Only try to do that if it's a low target and you're gonna get the kill, or they're gonna get out of it, right? Like let's say it's a mage, he's in a stun right now, he's not running blink stun, and then he's about to come out and blink it, then just explode it for the damage, or a warlock's gonna port it. Those are situations where you can explode it also. Um, but yeah, so that's a good one. And then I'll link a couple others down below, like having a feather macro is really nice. It goes at your player. You don't have to place it. So I'll link that down below also. I think those are two important ones. Let's go ahead and go to a basic rotation real quick. So people have been asking me what I do as a basic rotation. So the first thing I know to do is if I can get my VT out, I'll cast it. If it's a comp that has a like kicks, I'll just go ahead and just throw out my Shadow Crash, try to stay LOS, and then send my first Rift right after Rip. I try to send my first Rift right after Rip because I'm going to pump into it, and then I'm going to CC the healer right before it goes off, and then send my go. And the healer's going to be CC during the explosion and the go. And it gives me more time to do follow-up pumps. So things like that are important. And also, you can just build Insanity and pressure right after Rip, even if you don't pop cooldowns. You're already building Insanity, getting your, it's already back up on my side. And at that point, cooldowns are being popped, and your teammates probably popping their cooldowns. So generally, like I said, if I can get it out, I'll VT, I'll Shadow Crash the healer, and then I'll send my go, and then start heading towards the healer for CC, and start pumping, right? So that's pretty much your standard basic rotation. If you can get Void Blast out, go ahead. Do not force yourself to do it, especially if there's kicks. It's perfectly fine to just pump DPs and CC and then Siphon out, right? So it's a very simple rotation. All right, one more time. If you can get VTs out, do it. If you can't, Shadow Crash. If you can get your VT out, Shadow Crash the healer, so you get that cleave going with your Psychic Link, and then start sending. Once you get your dots out, go ahead and start sending your go and start CCing the healer. All right, then send your Void Torrent, CC the healer. Send your Devouring Place. If you're still in that, if they're still in CC, silence the healer out of it. That's all you got to do. All right, dots, CC, send your go, boom. Very easy to do. And there's going to be based on if they have kicks or not, right? So there are going to be times where you're just going to send Shadow Crash and your Torrent, and then you're going to get CC'd on your go, and that's fine. So just gauge what you're queuing into, what kicks are available, if there's groundings, and you're going to have to a little bit adjust based on your casting based on that. So that's about it. Dots, send your 4 Torrent, CC, go. All right? Easy enough. Always Siphon at the end, by the way. Don't Siphon during your go because they'll kill it. You'll get no value. Siphon at the end of your CC, right? So when you already fear the healer, you already stun the healer, you already silence the healer, and then Siphon, because then they're gonna come out and try to instant heal. This guy should be pretty much dead, and you're gonna absorb that heal. If you do it too soon, then you're gonna get no value out of Siphon. Okay, so again, your rotations are never gonna be perfect. They're never gonna be do this, do this, do this, do this, because it's situational. But that's just a standard go. All right. Next, we're gonna go. What I want to go ahead and talk about is I have a few things here. Let's go ahead and get to this. I have a couple of tips I wanna go over here for you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and go over a little lesson. My wife just got home, so my baby's very excited. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on this one, and we're gonna go into some lessons for this first one. I'm gonna do a couple of these little lesson plans throughout, like maybe 1 or 2 a month. Just depends on what I think of or if something new comes up. So first thing we're gonna go into is some beginner tips here and learn kick patterns. All right. So kick patterns are extremely important if you want to push rating. And what do I mean by learn kick patterns? All right. So let's say you're in a soul shuffle and you cast something and someone instantly kicks you, right? Like you cast and they instantly kick. All right. So their chances are they're a fast kicker. Now that might have just been a fluke, right? So you want to try it again. You want to cast and juke instantly. Cast and juke instantly. If they continuously are a person who kicks instantly, you know that you can just juke your kicks like that. And if you were in my stream yesterday, you would have seen I came to a warrior who was an instant kicker. So all I would do is I would walk, I would stop cast and walk again. And he would try to kick me, thinking he's gonna kick me instantly. Right? I would flay. If he didn't kick, I'd flay again and I'd do it again. Right? So, and on my burst, you don't need a full channel Void Torrent for burst, guys. So what I would do is I would Void Torrent instant cancel. He would kick, and then I would start pumping my damage and free cast with my my precog up, because he was an instant kicker. And I just won every game because I kept juking his kick instantly. I would run, I would do my damage, I would CC the healer, he'd be on me, I know he's gonna kick, and I would instant juke, and then I would start casting again. So you gotta learn kick patterns. Some people kick at the very end, some people kick at the middle, some people kick instantly. You gotta learn when you're fighting someone what kind of kick pattern they have. So you just gotta test it. All right, cast, juke, no kick. All right, cast, juke, no kick. Cast, juke. You never know, right? At some point, if they never kick, you just got to get kicked to figure out their kick pattern, right? If they're never kicking, just do a cast, right? They might be a 99%er. They might be the people who only kick at the very end. And that way, you know, so next time you're about to do a go, you can go and then kick and then send your go. You have to learn kick patterns. Very, very important to learn kick patterns if you want to progress in the soul shuffle bracket. All right. Let me turn my cam off because it's blocking the tips. Hold on. All right. When to swap. All right. So this is a pretty important one. Also, in my opinion, is when are you gonna swap targets? Okay. So you don't want to train somebody when there's a PS up, and they have like a wall. Let's use a Pharaoh Druid for example. Let's say they bark skin and they get a pain suppression or sacrifice from their healer. You're not gonna keep pumping into that target. Okay. You're just gonna tab to the nearest target. And generally, you're just going to tab to whoever the other DPS is, unless the healer is low. And then we'll go over the healer swaps late in a little bit because it's very important. But generally, if a cooldown gets popped, just swap to the other target and pump your rest of your damage into that target to force those cooldowns, which allows for a double kill or more swap potential in later on in the Soul Shuffle round, right? So just keep that in mind. Sometimes you have enough damage to go through cooldowns. And you have to gauge that. That's it's another thing. It's not always swap. It's when to swap. There are times you have enough damage to go through the recovery of the healer with Siphon, stun, follow-up CC, and you'll just send it, right? You'll send all your cooldowns, and you'll see, okay, this target's at 30% through all of the cooldowns, and I still have a fear and a silence. At that point, you're just going to continue going. You're going to continue going, send your fear, send your silence on the healer, and then you're going to get more cooldowns, maybe a swap, maybe a lay in hands, maybe a bubble. And then when that happens, you're going to reset and then get ready for a healer swap or get ready for a kill on your next CC chain in about 30 seconds. So it's all about noticing, can I kill through these cooldowns? or did they use them high enough, right? Like if some people use their cooldowns at 50%, you have generally a high chance of pushing through and killing them. But if they use them right at 100%, your first mindset should be, oh man, this guy got sack and PS or sack and wall, PS and wall. I'm no way I'm killing through this. He's in bear form. Let's just go ahead and swap to whoever the other target is, right? Or swap to the healer. So you have to know when to use that, all right? When to pre-use on your end. This is a pretty important one also. I do this a lot on stream, and people always ask like, oh, why am I doing this? I can see a go coming, and let's say perfect example is an RMP or an FMP. I see the CCs getting set up on my healer. I can die in the stun, right? Do I? And let's just say I don't have dispersion. Let's just say I don't have it. I will pre-Desperate Prayer. Yes, Desperate Prayer heals you, but if you're gonna die in the stun, there's no point of not using it because Desperate Prayer gives you a 40% HP bonus, right? So a lot of the time, if I know I'm gonna die in the stun, I will pre-Desperate Prayer, so I have 40% more HP, which my chances of dying in one stun are very low because of that, and I'll fade for the wall. So you generally want to keep your buffs up, which comes to step number 4, is keeping your buffs up, right? So, like I was just saying about doing a pre-go, okay? Let me go ahead and do this. So, right, let's say I hit this target right here, let's auto attack it, and I have 71,000, and I have, let's say I have no dispersion, and let's just say I have no trinket, all right? No dispersion, no trinket, but I have fade, and I see the go's about to happen. I can generally see a go's about to happen based on tracking cooldowns, so I'll get a pre-wall up, and then when I'll have my 10% protective light, and let's just say the go's about to happen, right? So I get my wall up, seeing this coming, and then I'll fade Desperate Prayer. So now I have 99 million health, 9.9 million health, right? And I had my 10% wall from Translucent Image, and I had my 10% wall from Protective Light. So I had 10% here, I had 10% here. I used my pre 40% wall, pre 40% HP from Desperate Prayer, right? So based on that, I should live, and that's what I mean by doing pre things. Noticing a go is going to happen and try to pre-use. Now you don't have to do that every time. You might have a sack on you. You might have a shield, a wall on you. You might have dispersion. You might have whatever, right? There are times you don't need to do it, but a lot of the time you can either save trinket, swap, dispersion, all by using pre-goes. So a lot of the time I'll see, I'm like, oh man, Pillar of Frost. Somebody just used this, right? Perfect example. 18 seconds. I know, let's say I'm playing with the Frost DK. I know the Frost DK is about to do a go, right? So around 8 seconds, I'll get ready to start pre-using. I'll be like, okay, 8 seconds. Let's get myself a shield. Let's get myself my wall up. And then right when it gets to 1 and the grip comes in, you fade the grip and you Desperate Prayer right on top of that. So if you get caught, you're ready to go, right? So that's generally how I'll set it up, right? I'll at the pre-in, let's say I gripped in. Well, let's wait for Desperate Prayer. All right. So I'm over here. I get gripped in, Desperate Prayer fade, and now I have 20% damage reduction with 40% more HP. Let me go and hit the target again. All right. I should live this go. I should live this go long enough for my healer to recover. All right. It's just situations like that that can keep you alive longer. And I highly recommend you guys get used to doing that. All right. At least getting your flash heal up and fading before a go. If you can't get the Desperate Prayer off, or you can live out, you're not going to die, but you can recover out of it, that's fine. But I highly recommend you get your flash heals up, and when, let's say, a Feral Druid leaps to you, get your fade wall up, try to get that 20%. Just try to pre-use your cooldowns. Secondly, try to keep your power of fortitude up as much as you can, right? If it gets dispelled, put it back up, right? It increases your healing from dispersion, it increases your healing from Desperate Prayer, and it gives you more catharsis damage because they're all percentage of health. So just keep that up. It's also 5% HP. You could live through a go if you have just by 5%. So just keep that in mind, all right? So those are some of the tips I wanted to go over. Keep your buffs up, pre-use, when to swap, and kick patterns. All right, next up, who are your targets? This is a big one I think most players have, especially new players, is who am I hitting? Who am I targeting? Like, what's the right answer? And some people you'll ask like, "Hey, who are we going?" And you'll never get an answer because they don't know who to go. And it happens all the time. So I broke it down a little bit into an A, B, and swap scenario. So your A list over here are going to be your targets 99% of the time if they're on a team. Obviously, I didn't put every class and spec on here because not every class and spec is prevalent or there's not a lot of them. So you're gonna have to use your intuition on those. But these are the most common things I IQ into. So based on that, if you are on a team and you're fighting a warlock, or you're fighting a feral, or you're fighting a mage, or you're fighting a hunter, that's your kill target. Okay. So that being said, let's just say there's a warlock and a rogue on the team. You're gonna go warlock. There's a warlock and a shadow priest on the team. You're gonna go warlock. Same with same with feral, X, mage X, or hunter X. All right. So if any of these A's are matched to any of these B's, you're going the A target. Just that's how you want to think about it. That doesn't mean you're only gonna hit that target though. So if this warlock ports, hit the rogue. You should be cleaving. All right. As an SP, you should be cleaving anyways. So the warlock ports, hit the rogue, get his cooldowns. If the rogue uses cloak, uses evasion, uses trinket, that's now your kill target. All right, that's fine to swap to him. But your generalization is these A-listers over here. Okay, why is that? They're either a lot of damage, they're squishy, or they have a lot of control. Right. So feral, a lot of control, does a lot of damage, but they're squishy. To be fair, they're stronger than they used to be, defensive wise, but they're still a better kill target because of the following other two: a lot of damage and a lot of CC. All right. Now let's say you have two A-listers on a team. That's when it gets confusing, right? You have two A-listers on a team. Let's say you have a warlock and a mage. Then that becomes who's easiest for you to kill based on the composition you have. All right. So if you have X or Y or Z in your team, talk to your teammate and be like, "Hey, what's easiest for you to kill?" All right, we agree that it's warlock. Oh, we agree it's mage. That's who you go. All right. Try to communicate. I should have put that as a tip. Type. Don't be afraid to type who you want to go inside of a soul shuffle round. All right. Don't be like, "Oh, I'm too good for this," or, "Oh, I don't need to talk. I know who I'm going." You might know who you're going. Doesn't mean your teammate is. All right. So talk a lot. A lot of the high rated players, that's what they do. So I hope that helps on that one. Swap scenarios. All right. This is not C. This is swap. So in Soul Shuffle, as dampening starts to rack, it is very easy to swap and finish off a healer, especially if it's a priest or a paladin, because they're using cooldowns on their teammates like sacrifice and laying hands, and they have nothing for themselves, like if they use swap or PS, right? For priest wise. Generally, these are the three healers I see outside of a disc priest. I'm not putting every healer on here. It's just generalization, the healers for swaps, okay? So your B lister. Let's say you have two B listers over here. Do you want to swap to your B listers or do you want to swap to the healer? It's just gonna depend on who has cooldowns or not, right? So generally, in a scenario where I like say I get all the warlocks cooldowns and he ports and walls, but I can't connect to him, but the healer, let's say the holy pally sacrificed, I will swap to that holy pally if he's in my range and pump damage into him to get more cooldowns out of him. So that's just something you have to keep in mind as an SP. Is this healer gonna die here over the second DPS, or is the healer low? Let's say the healer's getting cleaved and low. I wonder how much my baby's been in the background in this video. But anyways, yeah, those are just the scenarios you want to look at, right? Hit the A-listers, swap to B-listers on cooldowns, swap to healers if they're low with no cooldowns. It's just something you're gonna have to keep in your mind as you're playing the game, guys. All right. So I hope that helps, at least generalizes it for you guys to think about. And again, it's all gonna be situational, but this is just a guideline to help you guys out. All right. But on that note, I'm out. So let me know if this helped you guys.